Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you everyone for making it here. I'm honored and humbled to be in front of you. So before I actually start the session, Helen forgot to tell you something. You need to pay for this session. It doesn't cost you anything though. It's free. When I went to meditation 10 years back to my teacher, she asked me if I can smile like this. So I'm going to ask you to pay today in the next 30 minutes in form of this smile. And there is a reason behind this. When you bring this subtle, simple smile to your lips, it brings your attention back to this present moment wherever the mind is wandering. And initially I did not understand this, but in the last 10 years I realized the value. So when you bring that subtle, simple smile to your lips, which doesn't cost you anything, it relaxes your system instantly, and we're going to look at the science behind that in a second. It not only relaxes you, but it also brings you back to this moment, and I think that is what mindfulness is all about. Do you agree? Mindfulness is about coming back and living in this present moment. So I would encourage you all in the next 30 minutes to see if you can practice this simple technique of subtle, simple smile. I'm also going to keep reminding you and intruding into your space to gently remind to smile that way. So please bring that subtle, simple smile to your lips and see if you can experience a difference in the state of your body, in the state of your mind, if you are back into this moment. Okay? So with that, here is the agenda. Science of stress. We're going to look at what goes on in our bodies during the stress. We're going to talk about what mindfulness and meditation is all about. I'm going to talk specifically about type of meditation I have been learning for the last 10 years, self-compassion healing meditation, very simple and easy to adopt. We're going to look at neuroscience of meditation. And of course, at the end, I'm going to showcase you some tools and techniques. It's going to be a very short period, so I can't go in detail about the tools and techniques, but we're going to have a 10-minute meditation session at the end. But of course, as Helen mentioned, we are planning to follow up on this and actually bring a full-fledged meditation session where you don't have to hear my lecture, but actually just immerse yourself in the meditation. Okay, so I'm sure you can all relate to this in our day-to-day lives, getting pulled in all directions. Everyone wants you, your family, your work environment, your hobbies, your passions. And at work, I'm sure some of you feel this. Irritated, frustrated, not able to make decisions. And at the end of the day, tired and just want to go hit the bed, I guess, right? That's the story of most of our lives, isn't it? You all relate to this? And of course, we know the root cause is stress. Too many distractions, too many temptations, too little time, but too much to do. So let's try to understand the science behind stress. What goes on in our systems in stress. So why zebras don't get ulcers? Interesting. I thought we were here to talk about why humans get ulcers because of stress. Helen forgot to mention about some of my background. I'm originally a veterinarian. I'm very passionate about animals. Later got into an avatar of a technologist for the past 20 years. So just like me, Dr. Robert Sapolsky, he's a neuroscientist at Stanford. He's also very passionate about animals and human beings. So he spent about 30 years of his life in African savannas. He studied zebras, baboons. Baboons are like chimpanzees, gorillas, our close relatives, and of course human beings. So outcome of his research is that fantastic book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. So when zebra gets chased by a lion, it's going to run for its life. Of course, it's in threat. Its threat system is going to trigger in it, and there's a stress response in the body. So the first thing that happens in zebra's body is there is a nervous system called sympathetic nervous system. And that's the stress response that gets triggered in any of us. It's also called fight or flight system. When you are in threat, let's say you're walking on the road, someone's come to you with a gun, of course that's the system that's going to trigger instantly. What happens? There is increase in your heart rate, increase in your blood pressure, there is glucose released from the storage form of glucose called glycogen into your blood because you need that energy either to fight or flight. And interestingly, there are very important systems like digestive system, excretory system, reproductive system, nervous system, immune system. All of these are suspended for that time because body needs to cope with the stress. All the energy resources are channeled to areas where it is required most. So that is what happens instantly. Now adding fuel to the fire, there are a bunch of stress hormones that are released. And probably the first one many of you can relate to, adrenaline, also called fight or flight hormone. It increases heart rate, it increases the sugar levels in your blood so that you can have more energy to face the threat. And on top of that, there is another hormone called norepinephrine. It shifts the blood flow from other parts of the body to where it is required most. In case of zebra, it needs most of its blood supply in its muscles, in its legs, so a lot of blood supply is channeled in that direction. So this is not what normally happens in a stress response for anyone. But in a prolonged stress, there is a third hormone, also called the stress hormone. It's the cortisol that is released. And it causes a lot of damaging effects to your body, and we're going to look at that in a second. So in case of zebra, when, of course, it faces threat, it's going to run for its life. If it is dead, of course, it's gone. But if it's alive, it's going to go back to grazing or finding food and just resting. It's not going to think back and say, oh my God, that lion was mean, that lion shouldn't have done this, why me? Yeah, we can all relate to that, right? It doesn't ruminate all that stuff, it just ruminates on the grass. We ruminate on the thoughts. So that's what zebras do. Now let's go to baboons. Baboons are stressed out by the psychological turmoil created by their own species because they don't have threat from lion or a tiger. They have 3 hours for food and rest of the time to make someone else's life miserable. Close relatives, no wonder, huh? Right? So that's the life of baboons. So this is stressed out in the wild. Some of the baboons probably south of our border, getting onto the guns, and then stressed out in the world. No one is an exception, president to a common man. We all go through the same story. So this is Dr. Robert Sapolsky. This is a baboon with him. So he says zebras worry only about what's present in that moment. They don't go back into the past. They don't worry about the future lion. They just live in the present moment. Whereas we humans can get stressed simply with the thought. So right now, you can be sitting in this chair here, and you can start ruminating about your wife, your husband, your children, your boss, your coworker, whoever it is, and get worried about it. And you can trigger the entire stress response we have seen, sympathetic nervous system, and all those hormones instantly. That's the power of human mind. We can use it for constructive purposes or for self-destruction through stress. So when that stress response is turned on chronically, we get sick. And the side effects of cortisol, depression, hypertension, chronic fatigue, sleep deprivation, migraines, you name it. I'm sure you can all relate to this. 90% of the lifestyle diseases that we see in the day-to-day is caused by cortisol and stress. So we have seen how it affects the physiology. Now we're going to look at how it affects the brain. No one is an exception, right? No organ in your body is exception to the stress. So this is let's say if you imagine the brain like this, so if I put my hand like this, the model of the brain, the front portion of the brain is called the prefrontal cortex. So if you put my brain like this, the front portion right behind my forehead is the prefrontal cortex. So that's this part of the brain here. So they found in many research studies that chronic stress actually depletes the tissue in that area. And that area is very important for your self-awareness, self-regulation, choice-making, decision-making, willpower, all those great things that we need in our day-to-day life. So no wonder when we are stressed, our choice-making or decision-making system doesn't work well, because this part of the brain is jeopardized. And now there is this portion of the brain called limbic system. Limbic system is the central portion of the brain. So if you again imagine this is the front, so right here is the limbic system. And there are two important parts in that part of the brain called amygdala and hippocampus. Amygdala is the threat center, so it's constantly perceiving for threat in the environment, and the moment it perceives threat, whether it's from inside or outside, it triggers that sympathetic nervous system and all the stress hormones. What they found in the research is that there is increase in the size of amygdala in persistent stress. So brain changes based on your thoughts, based on the stress in your environment. And not only that, the hippocampus has gone down in size. That is your memory center. And again, no wonder that we don't remember things very well when we are in stress. So your brain is basically hijacked when you are in stress. In fact, this is one of the research papers. There was a lot of research done. This is done at Yale School of Medicine. So they found the smaller gray matter volume in the prefrontal cortex, the front portion of the brain. They found increase in the volume in the amygdala and of course depletion in the hippocampus. So now we understood how it affects our physiology, how it affects our brain. Now let's dive deeper into our bodies to a very microscopic level where trillions of cells are in our body. Stress impacts at the cellular level. So this is Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. She won a Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2009 for discovering an enzyme in the cell called telomerase. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So these are the chromosomes in your cell. Everyone knows chromosomes, right? The genetic material that's in our cells. So, of course, she won the Nobel Prize. So telomeres, so if you look at the endings of this chromosome, the pink area, these are called telomeres. These are the sequences of DNA at the end of chromosomes. So what happens every time there is cell division happening in our body? Every second in our system, cells are dying and new cells are being generated. It's a dynamic process constantly happening without our knowledge. So every time a cell divides, the telomeres get shorter. But then there is this enzyme we talked about called telomerase. It works on rebuilding the length of telomeres because body wants to keep your original sense cells intact. It doesn't want you to age faster. The reason we age faster is as we keep losing more and more cells. So cellular death is what causes aging. So they found that chronic stress lowers the telomerase activity and then reduces the telomeres. So telomeres, the length, as the size of the chromosomes get shortened, and when it reaches a critical length, the cell dies. So you need telomerase constantly being generated in your cells so that the cellular life is prolonged, so that you live longer life and you look younger. So faster cellular death and aging is caused because of stress. I'm sure you can all relate to at a physical level or a mental level. So what is the root cause of stress? Yes, there are problems out there, your environment, your people with all kinds of attitudes, and then there are stress. And there is a stress that you create yourself. We're going to talk about that. The root cause is untrained, wandering mind. The mind, at the end of the day, yes, there is chaos out there, but how you handle that chaos is all that matters. And that's where your mind comes into picture. And my teacher calls this wandering mind a monkey mind. Like a monkey jumping from thought to thought, always concerned about others out there, never coming back and looking at yourself, collecting the garbage from everyone, dumping it on you, getting frustrated, getting irritated, anxious, worried, and then becoming an intoxicated elephant. Elephant itself is massive, huge. Now it's intoxicated. What's it going to do? It's going to destroy everything in its path. That's what we do in our lives. A monkey mind and an intoxicated elephant. So, this is Dr. Matt Killingsworth. He's a Harvard psychologist. He's also called happiness scientist. He says a human mind is a wandering mind. He's constantly doing work on human mind. And he says it's a natural state of human mind. And a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. We are constantly stressed about everything else out there, not focusing on what's in this moment. And there's a lot more research. We'll talk more about that probably in another workshop called emotional intelligence. But what is the solution? The solution is to work on yourself. You can't control things out there. All that you can control is yourself. And the reason we need to work on the self is there is self-inflicted stress, which is sitting here and not being in the moment and worrying about the past or worrying about the future. And then, of course, stress from the environment. We talked about it. People, circumstances, situations, attitudes, all this comes from the outside. So in either case, who suffers? It's the self. We suffer. The other person is not suffering. Probably he said something and he left already. And what we do? We replay the whole thing and go through that, cursing and getting cynical about it, and going through this whole march fast back and forth. So work needs to be done is inside, not out there. It's all about working on the self. So we need to come back and care for the most precious resource in the world, which is yourself. right? So time to shift gears from coping to thriving mode. So what is mindfulness meditation? I'm sure you know a lot of stress busters like go take a walk, go for a run, drink lots of water, take a break, all these stress relievers are out there. But in spite of that, I meet a lot of people who run marathons, who do all kinds of physical activity, but they are still stressed out because we as a culture have never been trained or taught to train the minds. We are training our bodies, which is very good, looking good, great shape, but we got to work on this, and that's where mindfulness comes into the picture, mindfulness meditation. So what is mindfulness meditation? So we are not talking about this mindful. So you and your dog go for a walk, this is the state of your mind, right? And look at the dog, living in the moment. So we want to be here, not here. So I'll let you read that. So when you guys call us in the IT department and say, oh, your browser is not working, the first thing we ask you to do is, go to the history, delete all the cache, right? And then systems usually work fine. So wish we have a button like that, and that's what they're talking about. That button is mindfulness. You press that button, and then all the cache is cleared. And I press that button 3 times a day. Once in the morning, once during my lunch break, and once in the evening to clear the cache from my day so that the mind is calm and clear. I'm not saying we should all end up like this. So this is Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. He is a professor of medicine at University of Massachusetts Medical School. He's one of the pioneers of bringing mindfulness into mainstream medical science. He used to practice a form of meditation called Vipassana meditation. It's a Buddhist meditation, and he realized a lot of value in that meditation. In 1982, he created a program called MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. And it's very popular in hospitals and clinics out there. So he defines mindfulness as awareness of paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. See, everyone is so serious, lost somewhere. Present moment, subtle, simple smile. We know that, right? It's a very simple technique. Bring that smile, you'll be back here, because you are intentionally bringing your attention to this moment. And smile is the easiest to do because it's yours. It's with you all the time. You just need to get into a habit of doing that. So that will help you bring into the moment. And of course, the second part is the non-judgmental part. Very difficult. Probably you're all sitting there and judging me right now. Oh, this guy sucks. Come on, get over. Just get out of here, right? I mean, we all do that. There is no escape from it. Judgments keep happening in our minds constantly. But we need to find a way to become non-judgmental, and that's where mindfulness practice helps you. So we found that there are 2 forms of stress, right? Self-inflicted stress and stress from the environment. Being in the present moment fixes the self-inflicted stress. So you're not worried about past or future, just work in this moment. Yes, you have stuff to do, but you got to focus what you need to do in this moment. And then you can accomplish, and then move to the next, and then to the next. So that'll fix that. And the non-judgmental part fixes stress from external environment. Yes, someone said that. Do you want to go back and start dwelling on it, or you want to just let go, don't judge it, fine, whatever, and then just get back to work, right? Very simple. So 2 simple techniques. This is Dr. Richard Davidson, a pioneer in the field of mindfulness research. For the past 25 years, published hundreds of research papers. He says that in the next 20 years, people will regard mental exercise same as the physical exercise. We talked about it. It's in fact the need of the century, I guess, with data, with information bombarding us from so many directions, technology invading into our personal lives. I ask people, what do you do when you get up first thing in the morning? Previously, we used to go brush our teeth. What do we do now? We reach out to our cell phones. Oh, message, who messaged me, right? So we need that more and more. Mindfulness meditation, the need of the hour. This is the guy who co-founded Twitter. Twitter, everyone knows, I guess, who has brought our attention span to 141 characters. We can't think or read beyond 141 characters anymore, right? So he obviously found a lot of benefits from mindfulness. And this is Mark Bertolini, the CEO of a $50 billion health insurance company in States. 13,000 of his employees meditate, and they have done a research study on employees before and after meditation. They found 50% drop in the cortisol levels, the stress hormone. Work environments do create that stress, but we got to find ways, and mindfulness is probably the way, right? So, and they found that they were able to save $3,000 per employee in terms of healthcare costs, and most importantly, 70 minutes of more productivity per month. Which employer doesn't want that? This is Dr. Bill George, professor of leadership at Harvard Business School, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company called Medtronic. He says, meditation has been God sent for me, and we need to shift from the me culture to we culture. This is Dr. Daniel Siegel, another great name in the field of psychiatry and mindfulness, especially works with teenagers and kids, and has written a lot of books. In fact, a very good book for teenagers, which he has come up with recently, is called Brainstorm. He talks about the teenage brain and what they go through and how you can manage that. So he says that solitude is an essential experience for the mind to organize its own process. So you got to give that time and space for your mind to organize itself. So we now sit for meditation. Right? So a lot of people ask me, Suman, I'm trying to meditate, but all these thoughts are coming, it's bothering, I'm not able to control the thoughts. Well, meditation is not about controlling the thoughts or focusing on one thought, it's about letting go of the thoughts. So right now, at this moment, let's say I want to meditate, I sit down. What's going to happen? The mind's typical behavior, monkey mind, it's going to go from here and there. All your images are going to go in front of me, what I've done during the day, all these thoughts are going to keep coming. What we usually do is we attach ourselves to those thoughts and get entangled, and that one thought takes you from here to Australia, from Australia to Africa, from Africa to Japan, wherever, right? You're just right here, but your thoughts are wandering so many places. So when you practice mindfulness and meditation, what we do is we become a witness of those thoughts instead of getting involved and carried away with those thoughts. So you suddenly start to see your thoughts as alien to you. You say, oh, no, I don't want to indulge in you. Right? You slowly start separating and start creating that space between you and your thoughts. And that space is what creates that calmness and helps you make better decisions. It brings self-awareness. You are able to sort out your emotions. You are able to go through your emotional turmoil, stress, all of that. Because now you are separating yourself from your thoughts. We're going to practice that. It doesn't matter how much theory I talk. Unless we practice, I think it's not really going to get to it. So this is the form of meditation I've been learning for the past 10 years. It's called self-compassion healing meditation, also called Sukshma. And the essence is, of course, start with the self. No matter what's out there, work on yourself. No matter what people talk, what people say, work on yourself. Be the change. So this is my teacher, Master Sunita. She is the pioneer of this form of meditation. And she has been doing this for the past 40 years through compassionate leadership all around the world. So what are the elements of self-compassion healing meditation? Self-compassion is at the core, of course, the name says that, right? So being compassionate with yourself. And self-compassion is not some mumbo-jumbo topic, but there's a lot of research that's done on it. It's very important. We're going to look at that in a second. And the second important part is the smile. Please, dears, bring that smile to your lips. There you go. Subtle, simple smile. It just brings you back into this moment. It feels good, doesn't it, when you do that? Just subtle, simple smile, right? And there are also subtle physical exercises we do before meditating. I've seen a lot of other forms of meditation. You just say, okay, you go walk into the room and you just close your eyes and sit down and you want to meditate. It's not that easy to control the mind. Mind is probably the most powerful thing in this world. You can control everything else out there, but not your own mind. So to tame it, you got to find alternatives. So you first work on your physical body, do simple exercises so that you collect your thoughts, bring attention back to you, right? And then breathing helps you relax. We're going to look at that. And it also helps you in concentration. And of course, empathy, positive energy, compassion, being compassionate with yourself to begin with. So self-compassion, a lot of research, as I mentioned, Dr. Christopher Germer, Harvard Medical School psychologist, he says that responding with kindness and understanding in the times of stress. A lot of times we don't even do that. We don't even care about ourselves when we are in stress. So what he says is responding with kindness and understanding for yourself. Forget about others at this moment, about yourself. That is self-compassion. And this is Dr. Kristen Neff, another pioneer in the field of self-compassion. She says you want to be more happy and healthy because you care about yourself. A lot of times you're like, okay, my husband wants me to do this, or my wife, or someone else wants you to do it. But you do this because you care about yourself. That's like fundamental aspect of your life. You love yourself and care about yourself, so you want to make changes to your lifestyle. And of course, honoring and accepting your humaneness. When you start doing that, you will be able to honor and accept others. So acceptance, compassion, love have to start with self, and then it will translate to others. Smile. Charlie Chaplin says, life is still worthwhile if you just simply smile. And can anyone recognize this person here? Does anyone know? Anyone heard the name Charles Darwin? Father of evolution? He says physiological changes caused by an emotion have a direct impact. So he proposed a theory called facial feedback hypothesis. Basically what it does is the change of expression on your face impacts your physiology. So you bring smile onto your face, it relaxes you instantly. This is Dr. Emma Seppala. She's the director at Stanford University, done a lot of research in the field of mindfulness and of course on the smile. So she says bringing a smile, even if it's fake, can induce a lot of physiological benefits. So even if you don't like me, just fake it for some time, okay? All right, take a deep breath. We all know this, right? Very simple. We want to, whenever we are stressed, actually we do that. It's part of our system. We have that as a part of evolution, but we forget to do that because we're so occupied with so many things out there. And there are lots of scientific benefits for breathing. It decreases your stress level. Just simple deep breathing can reduce your cortisol levels, stress hormone. It strengthens your immunity, reduces pain and activation of pain centers in your brain, decreases anxiety and depression, happiness and optimism, improves sleep. This is a big one. Insomnia, a lot of people. In fact, before I go to bed in the night, I just do 2 minutes of deep breathing and then 5 minutes I am down, deep sleep. You don't need your alcohol or chocolate to put you to sleep anymore. And it will help you to regulate your emotions, improves trauma symptoms, and also impulsivity, reduces impulsivity with cravings and addictions. Keep focusing on your breath. Whenever you have that impulse to go get something which is not good for your health, something sugary, right? So, neuroscience of meditation. So this is a nervous system called parasympathetic nervous system. Remember the first few slides we talked about sympathetic nervous system, which is your stress response. There is an exact opposite to that called parasympathetic nervous system, and it's a relaxation response, rest and digest system. It exactly does the opposite of what sympathetic nervous system does. And you can trigger this just by simple deep breathing. When you do the deep breathing, parasympathetic nervous system gets kicked in, and deeper meditations, this system gets kicked in. So your body is relaxed, all your vital functions, digestion, reproduction, neurogenesis, immune system, everything is back to normal, perfect equilibrium. In the medical science, they call this state called homeostasis, perfect equilibrium state. Everything is functioning at an optimal level. So another study done at Imperial College of Medicine in London. So these are different types of brain waves. So this is the brain wave when you are in stress, and these are the brain waves when you are in meditation, and you go into deeper states of meditation. These are the brain waves. So there is a lot more gap in the impulses that go in your brain during meditation, and this is where a lot of creativity, inspiration, intuition, all of these things to function perfectly fine. And this is where irritability, anger, weakened health, nervousness, depression, all kinds of stuff happen in this stage. So these waves are called theta waves. So that's what they found. And they found 65% increase in dopamine release. Anyone knows dopamine? Dopamine, yes, the pleasure neurotransmitter chemical. You eat that piece of chocolate cake, you get that kick because of dopamine. So now meditation can increase that by 65%, so you don't need your chocolate cake. You're like, no, I want my chocolate cake. So, and of course reduction in anxiety. And these are the slides, difference between the brain before and after meditation. So this is before meditation. So remember the front portion of the brain called prefrontal cortex, where it is responsible for self-awareness, self-regulation and all of that. This is after meditation. There is a lot more connectivity between the neural structures in the brain. So there is increase in the tissue in that area, and also the neural networks are more tightly integrated. This is what is called neuroplasticity. In the past, they used to think that brain, what you got at birth is what you have. But now they understand that your thoughts can change the size and shape and structure of your brain. In fact, there is also another term for this called neurons that fire together, wire together. Basically, every time there is a thought, there are electrical impulses generated in your brain, and then the neurons come together when that electrical impulse goes between the two neurons. And you use more of those thoughts, and more of that part of the brain is going to be stimulated, and there is going to be strengthening in that area. So when you strengthen your prefrontal cortex, you are more calm, relaxed, and cool. So it was done actually 2 weeks of meditation, they were able to notice this. So you can reverse the changes, the ill effects of stress within 2 to 3 weeks of meditation. In fact, they also done another research at University of Pittsburgh. Remember the part of the brain called amygdala, the central part, which was just your threat center, and the size of it has gone up in stress. They found that after 4 or 5 weeks of meditation, the size of amygdala has gone down. So it shrunk in its size. So instant impact on your brain with mindfulness meditation. And we also looked at the aging. Remember the chromosomes, the telomeres activity gone down because of stress. So they found that there was 1/3 increase in the telomeres activity of the people who participated in meditation, and they found that mindfulness and meditation can actually increase your telomeres activity. A very good anti-aging cream, I guess, for people who wants to keep looking young. So the shift we are talking about is, I'm not going to talk, I'll just slide so that you can reflect on it. So most important is the self-destruction to self-compassion. That's the shift we are talking about. In fact, we have done a project in 2011. My teacher has spent a few months at the correction center in Surrey, worked with inmates there who have been there probably for 15, 20 years. Amazing response within 3 to 4 weeks after mindfulness and meditation. These are just a couple of letters. They have written many letters, and I just wanted to show you how it impacted their lives in a very positive way. I felt calm and peace. I was able to think clearly and work out some inner problems, coming from people who are literally emotionally in turmoil. They're able to sort out inner problems and feeling happy, mellow, excited, rested, aware, and peace. So if they can do it, we can all do it too. But the problem is, we are prisoners of our own mind. We condition ourselves and build these huge walls around us and say, this is who I am. This is me. And then anything over that stresses out. And what mindfulness meditation does is it breaks those walls. It makes your mind and heart open to be in the moment, to listen to the others, and to be there and understand. And that's what the beauty of mindfulness meditation is. It releases you from your own prison. So, take time every day to care for the self, smile and empower the self, experience your true self. And all that it takes is just breathe and smile. And I gave this presentation to one of my friends. He said, it's all BS. I said, yeah, it's all BS, of course. Just breathe and smile, right? So, are we ready to take your brain to gym? Excellent.